So how's everyone doing this morning? Good. A little bit colder than it was Tuesday. It feels like it. Very good. Now, we had an issue with the textbook, as you may have seen. There was a report that the bookstore was out of physical copies, so I posted this, ordered the text online that they gave me. I guess what they found out is that the shelf was empty, but there's 200 or 300 copies in the back room. So, but here's the bottom line is you don't really need the physical copy of it's a workbook, it's not a textbook, okay? But what you do need is an access code. So the physical copy has an access code in the front. It's a scratch-off thing, but it's a single-use access code. Once you get it, it gets you into our online stuff, which I'm going to show you today. We'll walk through it. But then it's not usable by someone else. So a second-hand copy is not going to do you any good. The order online now that they set up, they did this last semester, but the company somehow has changing instructions and I think this is a new addition to the book, something. So these instructions are the new ones they have. You can go online, you can order the book. Of course, it'll take some time for the actual book to get to you, but again, in this class, I don't use the book, sort of. I use the online portions that you will all have access to. And so what you will get is you will get an email with that access code right away. So ordering it online gets you what you're needed so you can get on and get into the system, okay? In the other sections of this course, they have usually 35 to 40 students. They've got, and I've seen the classroom they're in, they've got round tables and everyone's sitting around it. And then they use the workbooks to kind of go through these activities that we're going to do online. And I believe actually there's an advantage for doing them online because there's some applets that you get to actually play with things and visualize that are not really in the book because the book you can't move things around like that. However, the book is good if you're sitting at a table and you want to interact human to human. But if we're going to interact sort of through a computer, we can still do that. And in this system, closest person we have to work with is the person to our left or our right. We can't, these don't turn around. You can't face somebody. So if in this setting, what I found is using all the online stuff is going to be the best, which means the way this course is really structured to work is you go through the activities. And so what I'll do in the morning is I'll do and I am recording this so that it's, again, if you aren't here, you'll at least be able to see sort of the beginning instructions. I'll show you what the activities are because sometimes in the activities, you don't want to just start to at the beginning and work all the way through. You kind of want to scan and look ahead because they sort of give you the answers and sometimes you're stuck up here. What are they asking? Look a little bit ahead. Oh, that's what they're asking. So I want you to get through it. So the lessons are really designed as such. They're lessons. Once you go through them, and I'll show you this, that the homework is very similar to the lessons, except they have less of the thinking and going through. Once you've gone through the lesson, okay, now I know what they want. Over here, it's more putting in answers. Okay, and the homework part that will have you work through. Once you get through that, you'll get all the points for the lesson and the homework. Okay, the lesson I want you to be able to feel comfortable with. It's there for you to use or not use. Parts, all, little, whatever you need. I'm going to show you that those are those, but you get to choose because what I want you to focus on is not, I got to get all this work done. It's simply, I need to learn the content. And so the lesson is the area where you get to kind of play with that. The homeworks are short enough, you might not be, maybe from your perspective, they might be longer, but they're not too bad to get through. And by going through all of the homework, you'll have addressed all the types of things that would be on the test. And again, I've seen the test, you will soon see the tests. The questions on the tests come directly from the homework, or they're worded like the homework. So once you get used to going through the homework, doing the exams and preparing for them, it's very connected, okay? So, uh, any overall questions about getting a textbook, any issues you've had so far, or questions about the course? Any concerns? Please do ask them now, because then it's cleared out.
The first homework assignment, when is that due?
So, Sunday night.
Oh, Sunday, sorry.
So, and what I've done, but that's a good question to ask, because what I've done with the lessons is I've removed the deadline, the due dates. Because what happens with the system is once the due date passed, you can't get into it unless you use, you each will have, I think you start with 10 late passes. Once we're done and we're kind of moving into things and you're working on your stuff, I figured out a way to get you more. I'll give you all 100 late passes. So, because people, I want to save those late passes for when I really need them. No, don't worry about saving. I'll give you 100. You'll have 110 or something. You'll have so many. And if you use them up, no worries, we'll give you some more. But I'm hoping the main thing is getting you started. Last semester we had this issue with the textbook, and it took some people like 3 weeks to get into the system. And then some put it off, and it was like 4 or 5 because of their own, they didn't want to buy it. And I said, you got to. I can't get you access to the online stuff. The workbook is just a workbook. It's not the homework. You're just not going to be able to be successful without that. So the sooner you get into it, we go. So it is Sunday night, but however, you will all have late passes. So if you don't get it done Sunday night, actually, I lied. It's Monday night. I decided we don't have class on Monday, so why not give you till Monday night, right? So we'll do that. It's Monday night. But even that is sort of like a soft deadline because you'll be able to use late passes. It's still completed, get it all done. And then especially this first couple of weeks, we're all going to be at different places. But eventually, in the short time, hopefully, we'll all be on about the same track and be able to stay on and work towards our first test. So there is this information here, how to order the text online. I sent out a announcement with it as well, but it kind of, there's this thing, or there's these, I don't know if these work, but there is a link right here to get you directly to the product we're using, get you an access code. Once you have that access code, how many of you have actually gone in and gotten logged in and have access now? Were the instructions fairly clear? Okay, good, because I have a couple different classes and I can't remember, and I don't actually register for it. I do it a different way, but so then you register with your access code, basically get you the product, then you choose your section. Is that by section number? So you'll need the section number, which is up here somewhere. Actually, it's in Canvas. It's this 20856 is our section number, and then it knows to put you in this course, not some other professor's course, because again, even though the courses are the same, I do control it, and like I said, I've gone and I will make all the lessons no due date, which means they're always available to you without any problems, because I want them to be kind of like a playground where you can go in, use them as need be. If you want to review them, you can, but you don't have to worry about points or anything. Just use it to learn sort of what we're going to do, and I'll show you how it sort of works and where we're going to go. And what we're going to find is that there are some embedded videos, so it might be better if you're able to, like some of the videos, watch before class. Of course, it's hard to do right now, right? But this is sort of introduction still. Or bring some earbuds and stuff, because if we're all listening to videos at different times, it might get a little overpowering. But, we'll make it work. So you're going to see this class is primarily going to, and this is what I did. Actually, I think I tried a few lectures at the first time, but by the third week, class time is almost going to be all opportunity to work on things, ask questions. I'm not going to be up here talking. I'm going to be around here, and as you have questions, we'll work through things. We've got some whiteboard. We just got one whiteboard. The other place had whiteboards all over the place, but it's going to be learning by doing. Okay, so the lessons will be there. And again, those of you who maybe live far away or need, again, you're going to be based on how you progress and how you learn the material, not whether you're physically here or not here. There's no penalties for not being here. There's no bonus points for being here. The thing is be where you need to be so you can learn the content. Okay, and remember, it's not just content of algebra. I need to learn these skills. What we're learning is primarily a way of thinking about variables, about algebra, and a little bit later about trigonometry. That's going to be more helpful when you get into your calculus class than the way you've primarily been taught to think about algebra and trig. It's just, okay, I need to solve this and get a value. Now we're looking at how we get things to change. Okay, so let's see, we've got this. I did record day one, so that's here, the video, and the PowerPoint is posted as well. So if you go here, there's the PowerPoint and a little video. So if you either missed it or you found it interesting, it's there. And then, again, I just want to highlight there's this course schedule. This is kind of, I'd like to not work so much on due dates from the electronic part, because again, they do sort of cut things off. You will have access to having late passes to get you forward, but I like you to be able to work on things in your schedule. So this is a proposed schedule, and so you see during this week, so today we'll look at 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3. And the way we're going to do that is this. I'm not going to teach you all 2-1 through 2-3. They're very interrelated, but I'm going to show you how the lessons walk you through those. And I will we'll spend a little bit more time than maybe I usually would, because I want you to see how the components of the lessons will help you to learn it. And then again, if you do it before class, then some of you might be during class time working on the lessons. Some of you might work on those first so that you can be working on the homework during class time. So you can get assistance from other members of the class and myself while we work through the homework. And that's really what it ended up being, is that last time, those who came to class, and it was a small percentage, they were asking questions, they were getting their homework done during class. Those who weren't there were working on it, and some did just fine. Those who didn't do the work, well, they struggled a little bit more, because again, the test question, the way those things are worded is a little different. But once you get used to how the wording is and what they're asking for in the homework, that's the same way they're going to ask for it on the exam. Okay. So it's one of these classes and I know that probably every professor says this, but if you do the work, if you show up, and when I say show up, attendance is either here or virtually, because we've been using that, whichever works, but it's learning the material. If you do that with what they've got, you will do well on the exams. You'll get a B or an A easily. And if, at least a C, but then we'll work together to make that C into at least a B or an A. And the exams are all multiple choice.
Just a quick question. So if we bought the workbook, that gives us access to the homework?
Yes.
Okay.
So if that access code in the front cover, and I saw someone showed me it's sort of silvered over. I guess you have to scratch it off so somebody else, because once it's used, it can't be used again. Okay, and that gets you into the system. Okay, but this is where we're going, and so the next week you can kind of see if you want to start. Go ahead and look at lessons 2.4. And again, that's sort of a good way to do it. If you go through the lesson, I kind of know what's going on. I'm going to be okay if I stay home and work on the homework. Okay, or if you look at it, I got lots of questions. I better get my tail to class. Yeah, I believe the lessons in the workbook are closest to the they call them explorations, I think. In the workbook are very similar to the lessons that we go through. And again, those are not really great. Yeah, they call it investigations. Okay. They sometimes have multiple parts in there, but you'll see as you go through, there's this little person walking or running. You'll see those are in the lesson. And in the electronic form, some of them you're actually able to control. And so you say, well, let's have the girl walk towards her car. Oh, I see what's going on. She's getting further from the house, but closer to the car. And that's kind of what we're going to the theme of this is what we talk about covariation. So a variable we think of x, right, or y or something. But what we're thinking of is every situation we have has two variables that covary. There's an x and a y. And so in algebra, a lot of times we focus just on x and y was either something, or we focus on the y and we were given x, right? But in this setting, we're going to look at x and y varying together, so covariation. It's a little, again, it's a different way to pick things up. It's a different way than I've done it before, but it's what's going to help you best when you get to calculus. It helped me I learned some stuff last semester from this different perspective. Okay, so there we go. And again, the book's not really important. The access code is, because that gets you into this system here. And I've got mine bookmarked because I can never remember how to get there. So Pathways main, I go in this way. And I suggest once you do get access, maybe, bookmarking. There's something called rational reasoning, because there's another one I get into. It's got like PowerPoints and stuff, but they're too wordy. So we won't really use those much. And then, there's resources, there's online homework, online workshop. But basically, let's see, where do I go? Oh, go to the online homework is where I'm showing. If I go here, this is the book, which it's the instructors, and it's got PowerPoints and stuff. But the best place is get into the online homework. So that's my section from last time. This is our section this time. So we click in, and you'll see something like this. Okay. Now you're under the student view. It may look a little different. You have fewer choices, but you've got stuff over here. What I'm going to show you, though, is sort of how to navigate, because as you go down here, there's this calendar, and you can actually get into the stuff that's here. But again, it was set up to kind of have these strict due dates, which doesn't work for all of us. And so, there are these late passes and stuff. What you see that's sort of missing, if you looked at this before, is there is no lesson 2.1, 2, and 3, because I took off, because you have to have due dates for them to show up on the calendar. So I don't particularly use this calendar. Some of the other professors do. If you've taken this course before, that may be how they, you can use it. You can click here, and then down here now you've got a link directly to those lessons, at least to the homework, but you won't have links to the lessons. So what I'm going to say is keep going, and this is how I would like you to kind of go through. We're in module 2, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, so it's all about rates of change. And so here's where everything is. 2.1, everything we go through will have two parts. It'll have a lesson, and then it'll have the homework. In the lesson, that's your chance to sort of interact with things, to learn, and then do the homework. And you'll see the homework is very, very much like it. The activity you do over here, in the homework, they basically, she was 140 feet from her car, the house was 140 feet from the car, and then in the homework, it's 120 feet. So, but the questions end up being very, very similar, okay? So we'll walk you through it. So there's a lesson, it's marked as lesson, and notice there is no due date here. 2.1, there is a due date so that it does also post it, and again, what I'll do is during the week, everything will be due the following Monday, so that the next week we're ready to get going. Again, that's not a hard due date because you'll have late passes, you can go in there. But I'm going to show you, let's go into the lesson first of all. There we go. So they do have some things, they give you an introduction and kind of walk you through things. It does get to be a little bit wordy. A lot of times what I'll do is I like to look at pictures first, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. So you see a picture, you kind of say, okay, there's somebody in a house, or somebody looks like they're walking and they're going to go to their car. We see 140 feet here. And the nice thing of this that you can't do with the textbook is you can click on the button and it actually gives them motion. Okay, So this is a story about somebody walking to their car. And what we're going to, again, it starts asking you some questions, so it's sort of an interactive thing. Again, at this point, you don't have to worry about getting things right or wrong. Like, what is a quantity? Well, is the color of the house a quantity? Well, quantity is a number, it's a measurement, right? Color's really not there. But if you check it and you get it wrong, it's not going to hurt anything, right? So sometimes we learn by making mistakes. In fact, I make a lot of mistakes. That's the best way to learn sometimes. But anyway, distance from her car, that's something you could measure. Joe walking toward her car, well, the distance from Joe's front door to her car, that's a quantity. The fact that she's walking is not there's not a number associated with that. Joe's distance from her house, distance, that can be measured, that's a quantity. The time that has elapsed, time can be measured. So this is the idea of, so they're starting to get us to think a variable has to be something that can be measured as a number, and it can vary, right? It's not just one value, it could be multiple values. Now, and then you could submit it, and we got them all right. If we got one wrong, then, but we can do this multiple times, okay? And what I want you to get, sometimes, again, I usually don't read too many things. I might read sort of like the bold things, because those are maybe defining words and deal with them a little bit. But any of you play music, musical instrument? A couple. I used to play violin, middle school, play the flute, Native American flute, sort of strum on a guitar. I don't know that I really call it playing. Nobody else calls it playing, but I pluck around. Anyway, what I found is, for me, to play a song, even though I can read music, I can, that note means this string on the violin, I needed to hear the song before I could ever play it. I could look at I says, okay, I can read the notes, what they're supposed to be, but I can't play a song, because a song isn't just notes, it's timing, it's this and it's that, and it's, I always had to hear it first. And so that's kind of what I do with this. If I just read about it, to me, that doesn't help me. So I go and I kind of go through these, play the animations, okay, I see what's going on. They're asking some questions, but what you'll see is the further along you go, okay, they keep giving you the same animation, but down here, okay, now we've got a video. So this is someone actually giving you a lecture.
In this video, we're going to look at the ideas of quantities.
Can't quite hear it.
So let's consider the following scenario.
But that's okay. So you've got this to go through. One thing I'm going to suggest on the videos that I found helpful for me is, if you click on this little gear, you can do the playback speed. The way people talk at normal levels, you can think so much faster than they talk. That's what I found. I always run these things, and it actually helps me to focus more. 1.5 to 1.75. Sometimes I'll run it at twice the speed, but that's sometimes a little too fast to hear. But if we go at 1.75, you'll get through everything faster. But it also, for me, it helps me to focus. Because if I run it at normal speed, I'm thinking ahead of the people who are speaking, and so I start thinking about other things, and then I'm not really paying attention. So, but just a thing that's there, right? And if you need to back up or you need to slow it down, you can do that too, okay? Sometimes you might look at, okay, I got what's going on as it burns. And this is what I mean from covariation. There's two things that's happening. The amount of candle that's there, as it burns, it's getting less, but the amount that has been burnt is getting bigger. So that's what I mean by covariation. Once that candle's burning, there's two variables. It's original, how much is gone, how much has been burned, and how much is left to be burned. And that's the kind of thinking we're going to say, is that we're not just looking at one thing. And again, in algebra, we would look at how much is left or how much has burned. We look at one or the other. In this class, we're going to look at both as they vary together. And so there's that. And again, they will give you, this is sort of like a textbook. They give you some of these things. They define what a variable is. They give you some of these, and again, this is getting back. You kind of see the 140. That's the distance. Let me turn this off. That was the distance from the lady's house to her car. And they even give people names and stuff, so you know it connects in there. But then they start building on this, and so this is so I want to focus on this part. This is a technique they use to get you your two variables. So you draw a picture of the situation, and again, that's where this is helpful. They will draw the picture for you. So as you get through other problems, you'll get a technique yourself for how to set up a picture of what's going on, and then you say, okay, as Joe walks towards her car, there's two variables. There's a distance from her house to as she walks, that's going to change. The distance from her to her car, that's going to change. So if she's going in this direction, and this one is getting shorter. You could maybe put the arrow at either end, but they didn't put an arrow. But and in a moment, they'll give us an applet that we'll actually be able to move her back and forth, and we'll see all this stuff. But that's kind of what I mean is it's as you work through. Sometimes if it doesn't make a lot of sense, if you move along, they're going to give you a lot of the answers and a lot of what they're looking for. And again, at the first time you start going through, it will seem very different, right? Because we're focusing on two variables, this covariation. As one thing changes, the other thing changes. And what we'll see is, okay, so if this is her distance x, and does this distance ever change 140? Not unless you're in California and there's a mudslide. Not so bad, a lot of houses are moving right now, but usually a house doesn't move. The car will move at some point, but for this setting, we're saying these are stationary. What we're just focusing on is the lady's walking. So this doesn't change. So if we call this distance x, what will this distance be?
140 minus x.
Okay, so it's the total distance minus this, so that's where they're covariant. Now again, in algebra we might say, well, that's y, right, x and y, and we could do that, but you'll see that once you choose a variable, the other one's always going to have the covariation with sort of a constant part, and we're going to subtract. So you kind of see that happening. And then we get here, this is where I'm talking is now, see, if you didn't know, you just keep going, and now they tell us it's 140 minus x. So that's kind of, you kind of figure out, what I want you to do is focus on your understanding, right? Not on doing, I got this done and so it's done and now let me go to the next thing, but your understanding of things. And so you may find you're able to actually go through this much faster because maybe you don't need to read all the stuff. Maybe you can jump ahead. Maybe, I do this a lot, I start at the end and I work backwards because sometimes you have all the answers. So do it in any way you want, and don't worry about points or anything because this is going to get you set up. When you get into the homework, it'll make sense. You can go back and forth too. You might want to, let me see how much of the homework, do this much, I got to question 3, it's a new thing, let me jump back to the lesson. So find what works for you, okay? But it's kind of cool, you can play with this. And again, you can't do this with the textbook because they haven't figured out how to make paper do this yet. Maybe they will, maybe one of you will figure it out. But that's where it's kind of cool, you got that, and then you got some of these questions. We've got a Ferris wheel, it's moving around, and they tell us where, the 3 o'clock position, it has a radius of 10 meters, it's 15 meters above the ground, and obviously it's not going to hit the ground, so this is 15. We can see, and what they're going to do is the variation is between where Kristen is, how high above the ground she is in comparison to how high she is above the center, right? So sometimes if we refer to the center, she's negative, right? She's below the center. So you'll see this activity gets you working with that, so you got positive and negative values. But she's always above the ground because you don't want your Ferris wheel to go into the ground, right? And again, it's saying which is a quantity, color of the Ferris wheel. No, color's not a measurable variable as far as a number. So it gets us to think what is a variable, what isn't a variable, has to be measured. And again, they give us these more and more details as we go. So don't ever be afraid to kind of move ahead, especially if, it's just, sometime moving ahead you get more information. I think there's another one, and then there's this diver thing. So And some of these, yeah, here, you'll see as I keep going, now I've got a picture, and this represents the feet. So when the diver dives, the feet are going to actually go above the platform, and then there's a distance of the feet there, and then there's a distance to the water. We've got 30 meters. So we can kind of see, we do have to read some things to figure out what is the variable of interest. Where are we measuring from? And if you read this one, it's from where the diver's feet are. They could measure where his hands are, where the head is, or but they're measuring from the feet. So that helps us kind of this idea of defining our variables. What are we measuring? If we can determine that, that makes the problems really much easier to go through. Okay, and again, they've got this one. I think there is one. Yeah, that one they didn't have. These thinking about what you learned, they're more open-ended. You could go through them. Again, those are ones that if you're using the workbook, what they do is have you sit around, you all talk about it at the end. But me, I'm on to the next thing. I'll just be honest. So I might look at them and say, oh yeah, I figured it out. But don't worry about points and stuff. Once we're down through this, let's see, I guess we can always come back to the top. You might find better ways to navigate. I always just kind of go back. And then now we did the lesson. We're ready for the homework. What I'm going to do here is you'll start to see, yeah, Crystal walks from her house. Now she's going to a bus stop, not a car, but hey, same thing, right? She's 240 meters. So I could write that, I could draw that picture just like that other one. And I can see, okay, there's an X, and then there's going to be a 240 minus X. So that's the two things. So it's very set up that once you've gone through the activity, the homework is going to be pretty smooth for you. You're going to know how to approach it. Now notice there aren't the activities where I can move things around in here, but a few things. This, if you looked at the other one, there's someone jumping into a pool, and it's just, we're going to plot a point. It's 2.5 feet above the water. Well, that's here. And then you can check your answers as you submit them. Again, this is the homework section. You get multiple chances through there. I'm thinking it's unlimited, but you'll let me know if there's, if it blocks you. But in the end, we'll get you all the points. What I do on this is your homework score. As long as you hit 70% of the points in the homework, you'll get 100%. Because you don't have to get that last one down. I encourage you to try them all and do them, but there's some in here where the technology is you'll put 2.5 and it wanted 2.49 or something. You're off by 100th. I'll just give you the points. It's too hard to try to go back and fix it and all this stuff. So there's a few things that are in there. So 70%, hit at least that 70%. Get a little bit behind. I've had students, I'll get the 70% and then I'm moving forward. That's fine. But again, the more you do, because the tests come from the homework questions, make sure you work. If you can work them all, that's great. But don't worry so much about the points. You're going to get the full points for the homework by getting it at 70%. And remember, the homework is only 10% of the total. Well, actually, when you get the homework done, I'm also going to give you the lesson score. So I think it was 15% for lessons and 10% for homework. So I just base it, once you've got the homework done, you've got 25%, 100%. Okay, and you use the lesson as you need it. If you didn't, you might not need it. So if you might be a person, let me just see the homework. Oh, I know what's going on. But again, remember, take the time to learn this thing of covariation. That's really our main theme. Is if you can start seeing that as one variable changes, the other one does, and there's this relationship. That relationship is going to eventually become the function, and it's going to help you so much in a effective way of thinking for calculus. Okay, and again, it's a little different, but that's what our goal is, to get you there. So you see again, it's very similar, but it's just kind of fill in the blanks. Another thing I found out, maybe I'll do it in the next one, is you can actually, like if there's a calculation to be done in these answers, you could actually put that calculation. I think I remember where it is. Like, I remember where it is, and I'll do that. You can actually just put the numbers in. 5 minus 6, and it will calculate it for you. So you could put the end result in there. 5 minus 6 is -1. You could put -1, or you could just put 5 minus 6. The advantage of putting maybe 5 minus 6 is that this is going to save for you when you go back to review, you'll know how you got that answer. Okay, and I'll let me see. I know it's not here, but I'm going to put in 5 minus 6. Now it has nothing to do with this. Since this isn't a calculation, doesn't show it here, but if it was looking for a number, it would show 5 minus 6 equals -1, and it would say it's okay. And then when I checked it, if that was the answer, it would say it was correct. Now this one, how long is he? Right, an expression in terms of n. So they want something within, they want something completely different there. But you'll see that you can actually enter the calculation itself. And that actually, again, may be helpful. Also, just to let you see this little yellow arrow pointing up, if you click on that, nothing happens. Sometimes when you see that, if there's like an exponent or something, when you click on it, it'll give you a little template to choose like exponents and stuff, so or a square root. You'll be able to actually choose it from there. So look for that sometimes if you're going to have to enter something, or maybe if you have to enter infinity as the answer, you click on that and you just click on the infinity sign, it goes in there. Okay, so each question has it. In this case, they want something so simple they don't. Oh, here we go. So they give us these things to choose from, if it's, you know, square root or something, function stuff, trig when we get to trig. So you'll be able to say, oh, I need something with an exponent. And I think actually to do that, you do something like 5 to the second power. Maybe I needed to enter something like that. Anyway, you can use these templates. Okay. And that's basically it. It's, what you'll see is I'll, let me, time is it? Wow, we've already used over half an hour. So then, and then you can click on this once you're done, and it kind of disappears. So you, okay, I'm done with that one. Let me go to 2.2. Here's a lesson. Here's the homework. And again, they're very connected. I'm going to jump to 2.3, constant rate of change. And again, there's an introduction, and this is one on Usain Bolt. Is he still the fastest human? Anyone know? I think he is, or nobody's broken his record, but someone probably will. But anyway, you know, it's kind of cool. You click here, you see him run. And this situation, you know, he takes some time to get up to speed, so it's very realistic. But then after a while, he reaches his maximum speed, and then it's constant speed. So that's another thing as you start thinking. A lot of these activities are very realistic. Instead of saying, well, he's running at a constant rate. Nobody runs at a constant. You know, it takes you time to start. So they said after this period, then he's running at a constant because he's going as fast as he can, and that's constant. But again, you get sort of these types of questions. And then they give you different ways of looking at it. So here's, if you see these numbers, you can kind of see that after this point, he's running a little bit faster, right? So this is where he hits the max speed. I think it's 43, yeah, they tell you up there. And they give you some information. They want you to think of things. And then this one, they'll show a timer, you know, so these are the kinds of things you can use in here, is kind of at least take the time to click through these a little bit and see the physical context of what you're talking about. And then again, there's what variables are we doing? Well, here our variable is time and distance, right? And that gets us to speed. Speed's a combination of those two, right? As the time changes and the distance changes, we get speed. And so we started to get into that kind of a concept, and it'll walk you through. So how far did Usain travel as he ran from 43-meter mark of the race to the 93-meter mark? Well, he must have gone 93 minus 43. This is what I was talking about. It previews it for you. Oops, 43, no. Okay, so it previews it for you, tells you 50 feet. Now I could have just entered 50, But again, if I enter it this way, when I submit it, it will remember it. So if I go back to review, I remember how I got the answer. It's really cool. Then it will count it as right. How long did it take to go from there? Well, he was 5 seconds to 9 seconds. So if I subtract those, that should tell me how long it was. 9 minus 5. There it is. And so what was his top speed? Now this one, you can think, well, it's going to be the distance divided by the time. So you could put 50 divided by 4. Or if you really want to do it, you could, again, to get an order of operations, you could say it's 93 minus 43 divided by 9 minus 5. And again, it's totally up to you. But this is a system that the way it counts whether it's right or not, it'll actually do the calculations for you. So, maybe you don't need a calculator on some of these things. It shows it to you. Now, when I was doing this earlier, I got it wrong because I took 12.5, and if actually it said every 2 seconds, so sometimes it'll change this. So on any 1.5 second time interval, since he's at his top speed, how many meters will he run in 1.5 seconds? Well, if he's running 12.5 meters each second, how do we figure that one out? Well, 12.5 times every, so if at 1.5, I could calculate it this way, right? In 1.5 seconds, he'll go 12.5 times 1.5. So this idea of that, and if it was 2 seconds, I'd multiply by 2 seconds, and because he's gone that distance twice. But when I do this, this will be the right answer, and the calculations will be there. I'm going to go ahead and submit this and show you. I didn't do all the stuff, I know, but I think I did enough. And then it, did I get that right? I might have 43, 9 minus 5. Oh, and so the green means it's correct. I forgot to put that this answer is in meters, right? That's because I'm taking the time times the speed. I should, and now it'll get me everything's correct. Yeah. So sometimes when you get it incorrect, though, it'll give you those little boxes and it'll give you things to think about. So that's what's the nice thing about this. So then, oh, I forgot this part. Let me fix it. So so just give it a try. Okay. And if it locks you out or something, don't worry. Contact me. We'll figure it out. We'll make it. It's the learning that we're interested in, not whether right or wrong on this attempt or that attempt, but the learning. Okay. So does that kind of make sense how this will act? So once you do have access to all of this, work through the lesson part. Are we in lessons or are we? Yeah, this is lessons. Where it provides some of these sort of applets, and then they'll even do this because they'll connect it to what's going on. They'll start connecting it to a graph, and this is where it's very, very valuable. I think in lesson 2 they do the burning candle, and then they show it on an XY graph, so you start to see how a physical situation of something happening with covariant X and Y are getting plotted, and that's how we come up with graphs. And I think constant speed. There's videos, again, kind of mini lectures. Watch them at twice the speed or whatever you need to do. Scan them. Don't watch them if you don't need them, but they're there, and they'll provide a good context. And a lot of times they go through the applets. They're using the same applets. Oh, this is a good one. As we get rate of change, we can actually, there's this little X mark, so you can see as when you have a constant rate of change, this is kind of happening there. The other thing you can do is it's got this little box here. You can show the hypotenuse, so you see when a constant rate of change ends up being a linear type relationship. So again, you can do this. But the cool part is you can go backwards and you can see, oh, even it works both ways. So I'm at a point, if I go behind the point, it's going, looks like we're getting down, but there we go. And this is with the constant rate of 2. As y changes by 2, x is changing by 1. So kind of gives you that. Working with graphs. various way tools. This is it with the burning candle one, and you can watch the candle burn, and then you see the points as they change, so you see how it affects the graph. And to me, I learned so much just by watching these things, and because it's now I'm not using language to learn, I'm using just sort of experience. I see something and that's really how us humans have survived for all the millions of years we've survived, is we see our environment, we're able to interact with it. The great athletes, you see them throwing a ball 50 yards and somebody catches it with one, how do they do that? Because I can't throw it. If I try to hit one of you guys right here, I'd probably miss you. So, but those who will practice on something, shooting hoops. I got a friend who, he hits 3-pointers all day. I can't even do a layup, but with practice, you get these things, and that's what this access is going to do for you. And then again, there's some questions to answer to kind of mathematize, but you've now had an experience, you've gone through, you've seen it, and you work through it. And again, if you get it wrong, it'll give you some hints, it'll give you another chance, and then you kind of learn by doing and making mistakes. And again, more, little variable things that we can work with, more videos. So those are all there. And then they do some extensions. Again, when you're in the lessons, you might work through a little bit. And if you get to a new section, you might say, well, let me go check the homework. Let me do that first part, see if I understood. And because that's me, I'm kind of, if I've learned a topic and I say, oh, they're now talking about something different, I don't know if I can hold both things in my mind. I'll go over, do the homework, and then I get to the homework, that's something new. Oh, I haven't done that part. I'll skip back to the lesson, go back and forth. Again, you maybe do it different. That's fine. Find what works for you. Remember, did I talk about that in the first day, that two things, skillful actions and unskillful. So find what are your skillful actions, right? What works for you is going to be different for each of us. And that's really what my grandfather on my dad's side used to say. He went to University of Washington, and that's what he just said, that college teaches you which book to look into. I'm his grandson. I would say, yeah, Grandpa, that's what the academic world teaches you. What I'd like you to come away with is that college can teach you how to look inside yourself, that you have a lot of those answers. You just have to dig in there and figure it out. And multiple ways to do it. Sometimes we look in a book, sometimes we look at a situation, but we have more resources because, in Grandpa's day, books never did this kind of stuff, right? And so we get this interactivity. And then you have me here to answer questions as you go, to make you go forward. Also, if you don't make it to class for whatever reason, I'm on campus. I have 2 classes on campus, Tuesday and Thursday. I have this one, and then in this room, I'm here again at night from 6 to 7:15, and I live far enough where it's not really convenient for me to go back and forth. I've also got another class that starts in about 3 weeks at another campus, but from the afternoon, from about 12 to 6, I'll be here on campus in my office. So that's ECA 339. It's in the syllabus. If you can map it. It's over by the Computing Commons, I think it is where I'm across. Anyway, come see me there. I'll work with you. Let me know you're coming, so then I'll make sure I'm there. 'Cause sometimes I do have things off, but I do have office hours from basically 4 to 6. I will be there then. I may be there earlier. If you contact me and tell me you need me, I definitely will be. But from 4 to 6, I'm there. Okay, so we have these conversations on both Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you're not on campus, we can meet by Zoom sometime too. So I've always got access to that. But these resources are there. It'll walk you through. And again, you're going to learn in the way with the language and how things are asked, the way that the same type of language and way they ask things will occur on the exams. So it's very integrated. You could still learn these concepts differently from a different source, which, you know, I do have another class, we do it differently. We don't use the same languages, we don't talk about covariation. I'm not sure which really prepares the students better for college, for calculus, but this is, I know there's a lot of research behind this, from Dr. Carlson, who is a professor here. She spent 30 years developing this, so like I said, I learned some things. I learned some new stuff. So hopefully it will get you to that place too. All right, that's plenty of time. Any questions? Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you work ahead?
Yes, you can, and that's the other thing, you can definitely work ahead.
How much is
Oh, the tests, so you can work ahead, but the tests are on the days that they are. So you can't test early, but you can get to the homework early. I will get the review materials. The thing is we won't, they're rewriting some of the exams, so I won't even have access to them probably till about a week before. I think the review materials will be the same, so we'll get those out there. So, but yeah, you can work ahead, and then you'll have that choice to either start reviewing for the test and get it down, or take a break and do other things, or go learn stuff after the test so that you're ready for the next one. But yes, you can get through it. But the test dates are kind of, those are the dates we have. And because it is, this course is the same test will be given for the other ones. And let you know in advance when you do take the test, what I will give you back is your answer key, but since they reuse the test questions, I won't be able to give you back the actual test the questions that you do. But I'll give you the answer key. They are going to give us a way that, so if you miss question 3, go to this part of the review. I guess somebody did return the tests, and so those are out there, so that's why they're having to rewrite them this semester. But you'll still be able to learn from the test. Okay. Good question. Another question.
Does it penalize you if you get banned by or is it
It shouldn't. I think I took those out, but thanks for reminding me. I think it's set up that after, it might remove 10%. I usually go back in there and there's a way I can change them. So if you notice that's happening, let me know. I know to check for us. So when I finish here, I'll make sure. But no, it's not supposed to. If you find it doing differently, say, hey, it's not that I lied. It's just that I didn't know about that, and we'll fix it. Okay, yeah, you'll get it all. And usually it doesn't matter too much again, because once you hit 70%, you're going to get 100% anyway. So, but yeah, I don't believe that you should be penalized for making mistakes, because that's how we learn. You know, we get it wrong the first couple times, but we didn't really get it wrong. We just misunderstood it, and it helped us to understand it. So there shouldn't be. It takes time to learn. Good question. Thanks for asking. Anything else? All right. So hopefully you're feeling more comfortable. Again, we do have a couple weeks before the exam, so we can make anything happen that needs to happen. Look at the lessons, get into the homework. We'll do kind of quick check-ins after this point. I'm not going to go through each lesson as I did here, because they'll be basically the same resources, but I'll say these are the topics. Let's get started. And so class will be you with your laptop or your tablet. I guess you can do, this also works on the phone, but it's even if you have the big ones, the phones are still kind of small. Tablets work good, computers work good. Working through lessons, working through homework. We'll all kind of maybe be at different places. Some of you may go ahead and be ahead. We can work with that. You'll challenge me a little bit, but
And the exams will be remote, or
they will be here in class at the scheduled date on paper.
Okay.
Yeah, they're 21 questions. They're all multiple choice. So you have so I say you've got the questions and you've got the answers. Your job is to figure which of the answers is correct. Right? I think there's 5 choices. Yes. Yes, actually, because they're set up the classes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have one lesson a day. Since we only have 2 days, every week we'll have one and one. And since we pushed things up, we kind of have 3 today. So we've about 3 a week. So by Monday, if you can get through lessons 2.1, 2, and 2.3. And the best way to, again, to kind of keep you tracking is back in Canvas. This is a screenshot of from the syllabus. So this week 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. Next week 2, notice we've got 3. Sometimes we have to have 4, but back to 3. And then week 5, we've only got 1. What I may do is we may push this up here so that, because I like to do a complete day of review, not have to be, so we'll work with this. Again, the due date for this will still be, you can get it done later, but we'll make adjustments as needed. But you can always, again, as long as you get to there, it'll be fine. Yes?
Are any exams open notes?
They are not. So that's the thing, is you're gonna, so no notes. You do get scratch paper, but no notes. Yes.
How long is a late pass and extend for?
I think it says 72 hours, which is 3 days. But it's 72 hours from the date it was due. So one problem I had is that some people at the end were trying to do the homework from the beginning, which helps it. But so they needed more than one late pass to get it there. So as long as you don't let yourself get too far behind, one late pass will get you 3 days.
How do you use it?
You won't know until you're late on something, but when you try to get in, it says it's closed. Do you want to use a late pass? And you click the button, yes I do.
For saving progress on lessons, is it the same amount of money or do we have to save some?
I think you have to at least submit by question. But other than that, let's give it a quick try. So if you're in here, I think by question you do, like if I put in answers and I don't submit this, it won't automatically. I have to at least submit this question and then I go down. So by, submit it. I think there is a submit at the very end as well. No, there's not. Not in this one. But yeah, so each question as you work it, you do have to at least submit it, then it will save that part. But as you said, there's 2 questions. There's a post, we have a forum. So if you have a question about this, the best place to put it is into the forum, because then everyone has access. They see someone's got a question on it, and anyone can answer it. I'll look at the forum. If you send it to me, then when I respond, only you get the answer, and other people might have had that question. So if we can, I did get one and I answered them, but if you can post it to the forum, I'll try to get myself in the habit, I didn't do this last time, of checking the forum, and we'll answer it through the forum so that it's sort of public. So other people know that, hey, this question was asked, and if they have that question, they'll know to look into the forum, and so forth. Does that sound good? And the nice thing is when you post it to the forum, it copies the question. So you don't have to tell us what the question is, but you can tell us, just what your question about it. I don't understand what they're talking about, what the variable is here, whatever. Give us a little bit of what your question is, but then the question itself will be posted. So when we look at it, oh, this is it. Oh, that's what your question is. Then we can all interact and answer it, and go from there. Awesome. Well, I have no more. Yes.
So the screenshot that you have on the canvas, is that the calendar? Not the calendar, but is that the
It's
dates that you want us to follow?
yeah.
Rather than
It's from the syllabus, so it's just up to the first test, and when we get to the second test, I'll put that. So it's just kind of it's just there that this is a very suggested pace. Basically, as long as we're ready for exam 1 when this date is, you're going to be fine. So you can kind of mess again with late passes. You could get a little bit behind, or there's really no behind, but this is what we need to cover in this time period. And this kind of is one way of slicing it out that makes it doable.
Yeah.
But again, you might, I'm going on a cruise next week and I'm not gonna have internet, so enjoy yourself, but then come back, work hard, or work hard before you go on the cruise, you know, so you, yeah, make your personal adjustments to those. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I have no more. If you have questions, stick around, talk it out. Make sure you get that access code though and access to the stuff.
Have a good day.
You too.